Good morning, Greenburgh Central School District staff, faculty, and administrators. We are happy to bring you a virtual meeting this morning. This is a little bit different, a bit non-traditional, a bit unorthodox, but we want to adhere to the CDC's recommendation of social distancing. As you can see, Dr. Valente and I are about 6 feet apart from one another this morning, and we hope that we find you well in your classrooms watching us virtually. First, I want to begin with a really important quote that was shared with me and that many of you have heard over and over and over. We have a PowerPoint slide that you will see. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Before we begin today's workshop, today's training, I have to start by thanking each and every one of you for a job well done. We are truly navigating through uncharted waters.
Oh, yes.
I believe collectively in this district we have thousands of years of experience as educators and as leaders, but not one person was ever prepared for this experience. I'd like to thank you for pitching in, jumping in, offering your support, offering your guidance, and giving some wonderful recommendations as to how we can make sure that our students, our staff, our faculty, our parents, and our community are cared for during this uncertain time. But there are a few people that I believe we should definitely single out. I'd like to start with our school custodians. I hope they're watching, and I hope we can give them a virtual clap. Our school custodians have been here. They were here during the weekends. They've been sanitizing, disinfecting our classrooms, our offices, our instructional spaces, our school buses when we weren't here to make sure that we were safe and that we were healthy. So let's make sure we give them a virtual clap and let's thank them for a job well done. We appreciate their dedication. Under the leadership of Mr. Michael Falcone, as well as Mr. Frank Gunn, our buses were sanitized twice a day and our rooms were sanitized once a day, beginning about a month ago. I also want to thank our principals. You see, our principals have been keeping us calm, our principals have been giving us direction, and our principals have been guiding all of us as well as our students during this unprecedented time in our life. All of our principals should be commended for a job well done. That goes for our directors, our assistant superintendents, and as well as our school board for trusting us to lead this district in this uncertain time. I'm also going to thank a few gentlemen in our school district who always do not receive thanks, and that is Laser Alert, Steve Lewis, and Jamon Lewis. Many of you have watched the videos that we share with our families, and I cannot forget Miguel Barrios as well. Many of you have watched videos, have read memos that have been sent to our families, and we've been getting favorable results as to how we've been communicating with our staff as well as our community. But this was made possible because of the expertise of those gentlemen who have worked really hard to make sure that we communicate effectively with you. We are definitely in uncharted territory. Things are going to change. This is our new normal for now. The way we navigated through life a few weeks ago will have to look much different moving forward. I shared with you in an email yesterday that I would be on a conference call with George Latimer as well as regional superintendents at 8:30 this morning. That conference call did happen, and so I'd like to share a few things with you before we get started with the day's work. First, please be reminded that tomorrow, March 17th, there will be no school for students nor staff. So I want to remind you, it is an emergency day. Now, I'm going to share with you a few things that came out of today's conference. And it's important that you know that these changes are constantly evolving, right? So I may tell you something now, it may change an hour from now, it's changing minute by minute, hour by hour. So as of speaking to you right now at 9:51, the Westchester County Schools will close effective Wednesday, March 18th. Our county executive will conduct a press conference around 3 o'clock. I will communicate to the community just that notion, provided it doesn't change. To date, as of 9:51, schools will be closed for 2 weeks. That might change to beyond 2 weeks. So I'm awaiting the final word, but you will know that schools will be closed effective Wednesday, March 18th. So there are a couple of things that we've done here at the school district in preparing for the closure. One of the things that I'm really thankful for is that we had a Chromebook distribution early in the school year. That has helped us tremendously in being ahead of the curve to provide remote learning. Now, we didn't know in advance of this that we would have to face a difficult time such as this, but we knew we wanted to bring our children into 21st century learning. And we are being thrust into 21st century learning based on this current episode.
Correct.
And that's what's happening. So, our students have Chromebooks. Parents will be arriving at our schools today to pick up any Chromebooks that may have been left behind and or charges, as well as school homework packets. Many of the parents are entering our buildings as we speak now because I did send a memo out to them to let them know that they can pick them up so that students will have those resources. In a memo, I also indicated to families that there are ways in which they could have access to remote learning at home. Now, you know as well as I know, as well as you know, that not all of our children have connectivity. So those students who do not have connectivity, they could get access if they contact those cable providers that I shared with them yesterday. There are 4 listed, and we're going to put that on our website as well as our Facebook page so that parents can actually contact those cable providers to get at least 60 days of free connectivity. That way, everyone can access the learning. I want to share with you that we also have made arrangements to feed our children while schools are closed. Thanks to Aramark, Mary O'Neill and Frank Gunn have put together a really wonderful plan to ensure that our students will have breakfast as well as lunch while school is closed. Here's the plan to date. We will use our own buses through Royal Coach, and we will deliver breakfast and lunch between the hours of 8 and 10 o'clock. And we will deliver it to the AM pickup bus stops. That means we're going into communities to deliver food. I'm happy to share with you that the PTA Council contacted me today to ask if they can volunteer to help deliver the food. We'll have to work out those logistics because I'm still concerned about social distancing and having that community spread. And so we'll work out those logistics. But right now, our Aramark workers are poised to deliver the food to our children. We're not denying any child the opportunity to eat. If a child wants to eat, a child from Greenburgh Central School District will have the opportunity to eat. I'm going to also share with you that we have put together a robust plan for learning. We call it Continuity in Education through NYSED. That ensures that students will still be engaged in the learning while they are home from school. And for that portion, I'm going to give you to Dr. Valente, who will talk a little bit about the continuity in learning as of March 18th.
Thank you, Dr. Chase, and good morning, everyone out there. On continuity in education, as we speak, our tech department, led by Carlos Ramirez, will be distributing headphones and new Chromebooks for each of our staff members, so that in effect you will be fully resourced to have the latest up-to-date technology to implement some of our plans. So let's take a look at some of the tips that we've put together for you. And I think the most important word I could share with you is a word Dr. Chase used, unprecedented. We are in unprecedented times and uncharted waters.
Yes.
In all of my years of experience in education, we've never had the challenge of being asked to close over an extended period of time and yet continue to deliver instruction. That is quite a challenge. Technology allows the capacity to do so, but it also increases the challenge. So really, by the end of today, we're not all going to leave here with a set, determined code of what's going to happen. There are going to be some bumps along the road. We want to learn as much today to begin the delivery of instruction effective Wednesday. And as we go along, it'll be an evolutionary process. It's a fast-changing one. And through electronic communications, we'll be upgrading and updating our information. But with respect to faculty from grades 3 to 12, we've mentioned the Google Classroom account. would ask you before you leave today to be thoroughly familiar with that account, with the students who will be receiving your services, and to provide information to families on how to access their class accounts. That is critical, particularly in grades 3 to 12. In grades pre-kindergarten, our 4-year-olds, to grade 2, we have prepared lesson plans for up to 14 days, and additional resources will be made available. iReady, Raz Kids, would like to try and implement KINEMS, which is movement learning, and particularly for our youngest children and our students with disabilities can provide an opportunity for not simply movement and getting physical education, but also advancing numeracy and literacy. And that is something we'll be talking to our special educators later on today. Moving right along on teacher tips, daily lessons, assignments, projects. I'm going to show you 2 instructional models that are going to be operative at different times and perhaps in blended ways. One would mean that we would have our lessons prepared no later than 9 a.m. each morning, delivered to our students Monday to Friday, and any day school is in session, and during each day of the closure, as per the daily school calendar. Dr. Chase will keep you well advised as to what the extent of that will be, early April or perhaps later. We would like all of our faculty to be available to our students and parents, not simply for the delivery of lessons each morning, but also between 10 and 2 p.m. each day, using various electronic capacities that we have. Obviously, depending on the age of the child, the capacity of the child, it may be a parent who's communicating with you through email, text, telephone, or it may be you directly in contact with students, particularly those who are more mature at the middle and late elementary, and of course at the high school level. Now, I have a slide here for recommended instructional models. If we could take a look at that. We're looking at 2 models right now. Let's look at the words synchronous and asynchronous, or structured and somewhat structured. By synchronous and structured, what we mean is that we have a period-by-period approach to learning, okay? So, for example, from 9 a.m. to 9:45, we will be delivering math lessons. From 10 o'clock to 10:45, we will be delivering language arts, etc. That is a synchronous structured approach, okay? We are beginning more so with Model 2 as you look at the slide in front of you. That is to say, we'd like our teachers to get out their lesson plans through Google Classroom early on, and then drop down to 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. for teacher support through emails, texting, telephonic communications, etc. That would be operative for grades 4 through 12, all right? We do have the capacity to shift to a more structured, synchronous model, and at some point we may be advised to do so. But minimally, we want to start, because it's probably the least complex or the lesser of the 2, with getting our lessons out at 9 o'clock to all students, and then being available for explanation to students and or parents or both as the need arises. If we see a need to shift to a more structured synchronous model, then we could do so, and that will be determined by the length of time of the absences and how long we will need to continue to deliver remote learning through Google Classroom, and again, the teacher support. So there's going to be a blending between asynchronous and synchronous, but we know what our starting point is. We feel most comfortable with that starting point, and then we can go further as need arises. With respect to our early childhood, Jackson and grade 2 at Highview, obviously we're working with the delivery of lesson plans to students in packets, lesson plans with materials, resources that will be sent home, and then, as Dr. Chase had mentioned, the teacher support and parental communications that will make that work. The availability of iReady resources, RASKids, KinEms, etc. will be there. Lori DeAndrea has some terrific videos and resources from the Teacher Center that I would ask you to take advantage of. That could be very helpful in terms of support to teachers on how to deliver different levels of learning to students depending on their technological capacity. Moving to the next slide, we know we're going to need emergency assistance. Carlos will ensure that there is a tech assistant assigned to each of our schools, ECP Jackson being one, Highview being a second, obviously Bailey the third, and the middle high school the fourth, so that we will have a tech assistant available to our faculty with some of the questions that we anticipate you'll be asking in terms of remote learning. We also have an emergency number there that would be available to you, and as you can see, it's our district number, 761-6000, area code 914, and extension 3000. All right, so that's a good number to know. If you can't get through for any particular reason, namely lack of availability of tech assistance, or the number of inquiries exceed our capacity to respond, demand exceeds supply, if you want to look at the economic point, we have team at Greenburgh CSD.org. So send us an email and someone from our tech department will be getting back to you. I did want to mention that in terms of the learning, we've asked our directors to embed themselves in the following manner. Todd Manch and Brendan Gallivan will become students in math, science for Todd, and ELA and world languages for Brendan, where in effect they will be actually receiving the lessons that our secondary staff, grades 7 to 12, will be delivering. What's important about that is that it creates a feedback loop, so that if we are missing certain elements of a lesson, or if we're not getting through as completely and thoroughly as we would like the instruction to be held and had, then we will have an immediate feedback loop that will be delivered to principals and ultimately as well to you. Likewise, I've asked Catherine Adore to be available at the Bailey School, again, math and ELA grades 4, 5 to 6, to be embedded as a student so that she, again, will create that feedback loop. Now, obviously, administrators will be aligned with that as well. They will either be in your lessons as an administrator, or they themselves may want to embed themselves as students. But in either capacity, they will create a feedback loop. Issues that we're concerned about: connectivity. How many of the students on your roll are able to actually receive your lessons? We don't know whether or not 100% of our students, 90% of our students, etc., have that type of connectivity, even with the additional technology that we have. So a very helpful part of this experiment, and I call it an experiment in a grand style, will allow us to know a certain number of youngsters, despite our best efforts, are not getting the instruction. The sooner we know that, the better we can get to our technologists to see ways that we can communicate.
Right, but I also want to add to Dr. Valenti that it's important that the families know that they have options to receive connectivity, right? So we gave them 4 options, and we sent that out yesterday.
Right.
I'm going to reiterate that we're going to
Reiterate
post it.
those again.
Yep, I'm going
Yes,
to
right.
repost it. We're going to also put it on our website, and I'm going to ask our educators to please go onto the website, and parents who you know may not necessarily have connectivity,
Right.
reach out to them, send send them a text message, let them know that they really should do that so that their children can access the learning.
Great.
Okay, that's important to know.
That's very important, and that review at the end of this will be extremely
Absolutely.
helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Other questions we'll be asking as we go along, besides our connectivity capacity, what percentage of students are literally taking advantage of our efforts? What are ways that we could better reach out to the community to encourage those who are not participating to participate? And are we better off asynchronous versus synchronous, et cetera? So these are questions that need to be asked and answered, at least at the local level, while we await further mandates from the state as to what their expectations might be, particularly for credit-bearing courses and particularly for our graduating seniors in June. So on the next slide, moving right along, there are elective areas that we want to attend to, and would like to see that in project-based assignments. I know, speaking again with the directors who we met with earlier, Mike will be working with phys ed and health ed project-based assignments. Catherine will be working with art and music assignments. So we know that across the elective board, we don't want to ignore them, but physical education, art, music, technology, and of course, languages through Mandarin, and even library will be made available. So we don't want to ignore our electives and would like to see an integration. And that's another question we'll be asking, how well have we done that and what can we learn for the future? With respect to our pupil personnel services, our students with disabilities, this perhaps will be our greatest challenge. We're meeting later on this morning between noon and 1 with our special needs staff, and we're going to be talking through some of the particular obstacles and difficulties that obviously this area raises, as well as providing OT, PT, and other related services, and what degree we're able to do that, what degree it is required through the IEP, et cetera. So we'll be making a number of decisions for our fragile students, and as I say, we'll be looking perhaps at some innovative or unique software systems like KNEMS to provide the physical education and academic requirements. For our families, all families should closely watch for further directions. Dr. Chase has brought a genius to communicate with the families, so I don't think I need to say more.
Well, I will say this. I'd like to add this one thing.
Yeah.
This is what we do, right? But I'd like to just add one thing. We are putting on our website, as well as our social media, a toolkit for parents to help them navigate through Google Classroom.
Great.
Many parents have no idea as to how to navigate through this platform. And so I actually posted it on my personal Facebook this morning, and so many people shared it because they really need this resource. So we're going to provide that resource for parents because we want our parents to be actively involved in the learning, especially for our younger learners. Our younger learners will have to accept the invitation from the teachers and may not necessarily know how to do it. So we want to at least educate the parents on how to help their children at home. So that's going to be on social media, it's going to be on our website, and we ask that you please lead your parents to that particular toolkit so that they can be a resource to you.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
That's my commercial.
Moving right along. So I think it's clear. The next slide shows about activities that will be canceled, correct, Dr. Chase?
correct.
For the duration of the closure, obviously extracurricular, athletic events, field trips, any after-school programs. The real focus will be to what degree are we able to deliver instruction directly to our students, and how successful will we be? So we are part of the grand experiment. Let me say in closing, I have been doing this for a long time. We went through New York City when they lost their power for several days. Some of you might remember that. Most of you don't know what I'm talking about. We went through all of the different viruses, the H1N1, the SARS virus, et cetera. We've been through 9/11.
Oh, yeah.
And so as school systems, we have survived and moved forward. But this is the first time that we're being asked to really jump in as school systems and what are we capable of delivering on home. We're testing the full capacity of remote learning. We're testing the full capacity of teachers to work in an unconventional way on a regular systematic basis, right? It will never be a permanent basis, believe me, but it is an alternative that we need to explore, work with, learn from our mistakes, and there will be mistakes, and be able to create new ways of delivering learning. So we're involved, in, quite frankly, in a masterful experiment. Don't worry about mistakes or errors or those that are unintended or intended, but let's focus on what we can improve as we go forward, because we are involved in a totally different vision of delivering instruction.
And you're absolutely correct. One of the things that I have to emphasize over and over again is your communication with the families.
Right.
This is not a perfect model, but it is a plan. And I will say that we started planning long before we knew that there would be an extensive closure. Mm-hmm. And I think that it credits each and every one of you who are out there in virtual land, just your ability to be flexible and your ability to adjust. And I thank you for that. Stay in touch with your families. They need to hear from you. They need to know that we're not just sending information virtually to students and there's no interaction. So it is important that you communicate with your parents and that you communicate with your students. I'm also going to share with you this. I don't want one teacher to be actively involved in doing the work virtually and another teacher not necessarily doing the same thing. Because what will happen is you will be called out by parents, and I don't want any of us to be called out. I want us to just work together. I want us to support one another. If you know a colleague might need help, help that colleague out. Right now, as I said to you in an email, we need to behave as if we are family during this very uncertain time. And so I just thank you for that in advance. If you are a civil service worker, I ask that you please seek your immediate supervisor, because your immediate supervisor will give you further instructions for the next couple of weeks. As Dr. Valente indicated, those educators who work with our most unique learners, our special educators, please make sure that you see the email from Jill Post, because she has some very important information. We are mandated to still provide services to students as well as lessons to students, and we don't want to miss that opportunity, because those parents definitely need our support in working with children who do have those additional needs. A few more things. I'm going to ask that you will think about opening a Twitter account. And I say this because we get to exchange ideas on Twitter. That's the one safe space in the school district where we exchange ideas and where we get to retweet each other's ideas and we get to learn from other educators. If I see that you have tweeted something, I will retweet it, because our families are also looking to us for additional resources for their children at home. So if you have a Twitter account, fantastic. Keep tweeting, keep providing those resources. Asa Shikaporsha gave a great resource the other day. That's a big shout out to him. Mm-hmm. A big shout out to Lori DeAndrea, who's been doing some great work and putting things out on Twitter, and so many others here. So I want you to start thinking about that, because again, it's a great way to communicate with your parents, to share and exchange ideas, and I will be on Twitter also giving out information that's pertinent. I'm also going to ask that you check your email often. I will be communicating with you. It is important that you get messages from me as it relates to the district-wide impact, okay? I am going to serve as the chief communicator. Do not get involved in the gossip and unconfirmed information. If it doesn't come from me, then it didn't happen. I am going to be the person to share information with you and give information. I don't want us to draw our own conclusions. I don't want us to make inferences on what we think we may have heard and share that, because this is how we confuse the masses, and this is how we also get ourselves into trouble. I think we've been doing a fantastic job thus far in maintaining calm in this district, as well as sharing information that is confirmed and that is relevant, and I want to continue to work in that vein. I'm going to end by sharing with you a quote, because I know you have a lot of work to do, and Dr. Valente gave you a pretty hefty charge. I'm going to end by sharing a quote that some of you may have seen on social media, but a really good superintendent friend of mine shared with me. And the colleague shared, in the end, it will be impossible to know if we overreacted or did too much, but it will be quite apparent if we underreacted or did too little.
Mm-hmm.
I think that quote is so relevant in this very time that we're in. I know some things might seem a bit of an overreaction, might seem extra. It might seem that it's putting more burden and more stress on us. But when the smoke clears and COVID-19 has moved on, and it's no longer plaguing our community, it'll give us an opportunity to assess our ability to be flexible and adjustable in the event of an emergency. And at the end, I believe our students will benefit tremendously from our preparedness, from our willingness, our dedication, and our commitment to them. Once again, you have your charge. Please know that many of you have emailed me, spoken to me directly, have called me, have texted me, have sent me messages through social media. We are available to you. Your principal's available to you. You are not in this by yourselves. We're here with you, and we're all in this together. I believe in each and every one of you, and I believe in your ability to make Greenburgh Central School District shine for our kids and for our community during this time of uncertainty. We are Greenburgh strong, and we are going to get through this together. Thank you once again. Lunch will be served at 12 o'clock. Your principals will now give you your direction, or your immediate supervisor will now give you your direction. If there are any questions, you know how to reach us. We'll be happy to answer them. I will be around to the different buildings to say hello to you before I leave for the day. I ask that you please remember to take care of those who are in need in your families, and don't forget to check on your elderly ones. Be well, take care of yourselves, and take care of each other.